Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to have a great time tonight. Jason McLean is in to talk some Bigfoot, some Dogman, and high strangeness out in the Texas forest. We're going to get to him momentarily. Dirty Filth is here with another crazy cartoon. And most of all, we have each and every one of you hanging on out with us tonight, including Tim Mothman and his goatee in the gold medal position. Paramarv with a silver, Eternity Eternal with a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Caddywhack, how are you? Sir Brian Bowden, the man with 8,982 podcasts, all simultaneously running. How are you, buddy? Good to see you as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Robert Lamoth, Mickey G, Thunderhead, how are you? Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. She sent me a beautiful photo of herself today. Oh, she was so beautiful. I don't know if I should share it or not, but Mama Catherine is gorgeous, just gorgeous. And thank you for the picture, my dear. I love you. Vanessa is here. Vanessa will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Kathy Evans, Lisa Smith, nice to have you here. Anil, how are you tonight? Nice to have you here. Good evening, Jaquetta. How are you? As we continue on with our roll call, Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness. So Mel is hanging on out with us, lubing us up for some cryptid talk. We appreciate it. I can feel it already. Chaz, how you doing? Welcome back. And Operation Shutdown. Nice to see you, my friend. As we scroll on down to say hello to Necessary Dialogue and number 12 in your program, starting at right wing tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Undead Jed, nice to have you here. Jay Trueseeker, nice to see you. Radio Wendigo is here. Radio Wendigo will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Jeff Steve Garby is here. He'll hit a home run for you. And Marie K, nice to see you. Algaray over on Twitch, so excited for Jason McLean tonight. He did 750 pounds on the leg press machine 47 times to get ready for tonight. His legs are jacked for tonight's show. Walter Kochabinski, how are you? As we continue on with our roll call here. Now my computer jumped. So now I got to find myself. Thank you, computer. Where are we here? Scrolling on up now. Okay, there's Doug Shelby. I'm Hardcore over on X. Aussie, nice to see you both. And let's see here. Who else do we have? Frankie B. Good to see you. Karen in the Woo Train and Lawnmower Girl. How are you both? Much love to each and every one of you. And let's see, scrolling on down. George Senda, how you doing, buddy? Nice to have you back. Hope you're having a great evening. And let's see, Nina Williams, good to have you here. And Corey, thank you for coming on in. Scrolling on down. Desert Rat, nice to see you. Mystery Forms, welcome from Richmond, British Columbia. Hopefully your property is safe. Unlike I don't know, do you have a home still? We'll see about that. Let me know. I'm curious. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in as we're talking Dogman and Bigfoot. Jason McLean, researcher and author, is here with us to have some fun about these great subjects that we like to cover. And we are also going to say hello as we are in roll call on YouTube to E. Dungarland. Welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. Benno, nice to see you. And let's see who else we have. Jerence Carter. The Jerence Carter hanging on out with us. We are caught up right now, Hi the Unknown on YouTube. Reminder to all of you, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. And you can also join our YouTube membership. If you are new, I've seen a couple new people in here. If you are new, do me a favor, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Hi, Yennefer. And another favor, Deadfish, how are you? Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are getting deep into the woods of Texas tonight. Jason McLean is here to talk about Bigfoot, Dogman, and other cryptid creatures running around. Then in hour number 3, it's a busy one. Swamp Dweller will be here to kick things off. Katie Page joins us for the Encounters. We're going to follow that up with the Dave 101, and it's the weird news of the week. So let's get right to it here, if you don't mind. Author, illustrator, and biblical paranormal researcher Jason McLean explores the mysteries that connect faith, science, and the supernatural. Living in Texas with his 3 children and his patient and long-suffering wife, Jason has devoted his life to understanding the hidden truths behind the Bible and the universe as it describes his passion for art and storytelling, which fuels his investigations into UFOs, cryptids, ancient mysteries, and unexplained phenomena. This is a good show. This is a smart guy, and he's not afraid to walk into the forests of Texas to look for everything from tigers that are running around, from Tiger King to Bigfoot, Dogman, little miniature T-Rexes, raptors, and whatever else, maybe even a goat man or two. Jason McLean, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
So far, so good, man. It's been a while.
It's been way too long. You know, I know our radio audience can't see this, but your beard is doing very well. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's always a little difficult to try and shape correctly. I have an odd-shaped face. So I can only hope to one day have the magnificent facial force that you have.
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's not me, it's my barber. Okay. My barber takes care of it all. And he's an ex-military man here up in Canada.
Gotcha.
And Chad takes very good care of my beard. I can tell you that.
Well, Chad clearly knows what he's doing, sir.
Oh, yes. You know what bugs me about him is his hand is so steady. He doesn't even use a hairbrush to trim. He just goes like straight down and
You're
straight
kidding.
across. And I'm like, dude, how are you doing that? I would be shaking like anything. He's like,
That's nuts.
It's what I
See,
do. And I'm like, you're
that-
crazy.
It's this moment, right? The people in chat who don't know, it's like, no, you see somebody do that, it's perfection when you see that. Yeah, I forgot about the tiger thing, honestly, up there around Brown Springs. Yeah, it gets a little weird out there sometimes. But yeah, no. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, Texas, isn't that basically a desert? Depends on where you are. Texas is actually one of the most geographically diverse from an ecological perspective location in the United States, because we're kind of right where everything meets up, right? You head out west, trust me, you'll see some desert. Beautiful desert, by the way. I love it out there. But where I live in the DFW area, we're basically right there at the base of the American Great Plains, right? Essentially, it's a savanna, right? We're sort of at the bottom of it. We're just a little bit to the east, and you hit East Texas, which is all piney woods. A little bit further south, you get the rolling hills of the hill country. And in the DFW, what we have is the Trinity River, which is, and a few others, but it's 4 major forks that go into one that goes all the way out into the Galveston Bay. And yeah, it gets a little weird up here. There's a lot more foliage than most people assume, given what you see on television. But yeah, we've got forests that are remarkably dense, and how we've sort of lived our lives with all these concrete roads and cities. We've created what I call and talked about in the book, the green wall. So really, because think about it, most roads, what do? You take all the trees immediately out, you mow up to a tree line, and that's where you have all this brush that pops up. You can't see into it. You can move elephants through most of these forests and creeks, and nobody would ever see anything. So it's a great place for a lot of weird and unexplained things to hide. And the occasional meth head. Don't ever question yourself about that. I assure you, there's some other less exotic weirdness in the forests around the DFW.
When I mentioned tigers right off the bat, what a lot of people don't know is prior to his ranch getting busted, I learned this from your buddy Tex, Big Tex, that the Tiger King actually released what they believe was like between 11 and 18 tigers into the wild.
And other exotic cats, yes.
Yeah. So literally you are dealing with some big animals, and they've never found them. They don't know if they're breeding. They don't know if they're alive. They don't know if they're dead. They don't know where they are.
Yeah. And it's not so much that they were released in so much as a tornado tore through. And it wasn't like the primary park. It was like a secondary park, I think, right after he had been arrested, I believe. But a tornado, and they just disappeared. And there's plenty of, it's up around Brown Springs. And trust me, it's easy to disappear up there. There's a lot of greenery, particularly around the Red River and around most of these creeks. It's very dense, and there's a lot of animals. Pumas and jaguars were mountain lions, and depending on where you are, and jaguars were very common in Texas. So there's a large there's a ecological niche for big cats to have to hang out. So yeah, they could be breeding. They could just have died off because they were hand raised and just didn't know what to do. You never know. So, but there's enough weirdness that and the hogs are the things that worry me whenever we hop up there. It's like that. Those are the two things I'm worried about the most.
A lot of people who don't fully understand the wilderness, like you're dealing with there in northern Texas, and like I deal with here in British Columbia, they're always like, well, Bigfoot and Dogman don't like guns. They don't like the pointy sticks. They don't, You shouldn't go in armed. These creatures, you'll never see them if you do that, and I think a lot of these people don't understand that there's more animals out there that would love to have you on their dinner plate than actually worrying about the Sasquatch or the dog man.
Well, and on top of that, how many stories do we have of hunters coming across these things, right? If guns were that offensive, it wouldn't be hunters that have all of these stories. That having been said, they're hogs are like even more than big cats, because big cats, they do tend to avoid the times you have trouble with big cats is when you have honestly, it's young predators, but they're much closer to the cities, right? And they're younger, they're untrained, and if there's been a bad winter, so there isn't a lot of little fluffy bunnies running around, it can be a thing. But really, it's hogs, because hogs don't care at all. And people think, oh, little piglet over there. No, Piglet's mom can lift trees and move them over to get at the grubs underneath. I assure you, they are vicious, and they will absolutely tear you apart because they just don't care. So you go out armed or you don't go out at all. And that's avoiding things like the copperheads and rattlesnakes, and again, the occasional meth head.
That's the one thing I like about my area. We don't have snakes up here.
Cold. That is definitely
and I'm a chicken for snakes. Now you go an hour south of me, the rattlers come into play.
Of course.
Right. But up where I am, you don't have to worry about the snakes, and that's a good thing. But I mean, we do have to worry about the wolf packs. We do have to worry about, this area of British Columbia has some of the largest mountain lions in the world.
And, really?
Yeah. And, we have, grizzly bears. British Columbia right now is at an all-time high for grizzly bear attacks.
Yeah.
And so we have to worry about all of that in our forest, right?
Oh,
yeah. So, never mind what else could be out there, the wendigos and skinwalkers, trying to chase you down in the forest. But this is something that you do have to worry about. Tell everybody how this adventure started for you.
Well, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would have had probably a slightly different answer. But looking back on it now, when I was 12, so I was, again, Gen X, right? Last year of Gen X, but still Gen X. Got in there by the skin of my teeth. So, I was raised in the creeks and all that. But 1992 summer, off school, 10 Mile Creek. Texans are amazing in a lot of things. Naming things creatively, not one of them. The 10 Mile Creek, we'd fish, swim in there, and that's where I spent my summers. And I'll make the long story very short. Had an encounter with a living pterosaur.
What?
And the rest is history.
Okay, you got to get in deep on this. There's no shorting us on this one.
Okay, so real quick, just to kind of set the scene. North Texas sits on basically a giant limestone slab because at some point this was an ocean, and then it realized, oh crap, this is Texas. I need to be somewhere else, and now there's no water here, and so we're on this massive limestone slab. But we have very vicious rains in the spring. So we have a number of very large creeks and sort of interconnected rivers, but that's all the water in North Texas. It's coming from these creeks, and they cut really deep into the limestone in most places. And so 10 Mile Creek, again, most of the larger creeks in the area, it's about 10, 15 feet down from sometimes even 20 from ground level. You really can't build directly up on the creek in most places because, again, the waters are in the spring are so high that we kind of, again, built all of our cities around these creeks as wild spaces because it's going to flood. There's no way to stop it. And so when you're in the creek, it's basically sheer walls of limestone and then the soil on top of it for 15 feet up. And it's about 15, 20 feet wide in most places. So we're there. You really can't even see into the creeks because, like I said, the green wall, it's just that's where all the plant life is. But in a few places, the walls have collapsed in on themselves and gives you a little access way into it. A little beach you can fish on, and like I said, you spend all your time there. So it's 1992 summer, and a friend and I were fishing. It's getting about 10:30, 11 o'clock. We're done, and he was already up the embankment and into the tree line, and I'm finishing putting everything together. And I'm heading up, and before I hit the tree line, I hear a noise. It's a sound I can't identify. The closest thing I can come to is the sound of an ugly crow. Right? You hear a crow caw. It's like that, but ugly. That's the only way I can describe what I heard. And it sounded loud, and I just, okay, I don't know what that sound is. Like I said, I grew up, I know what everything sounds like, and particularly in that creek. It was less than a half mile from the house. We were there all the time. So I poked my head out from the tree line, and I see what I think is the largest blue heron I've ever seen in my life. 8 to 10 foot wingspan. Payne's gray, sort of a bluish gray. And I'm just watching it thinking, man, this is a massive blue heron. And then it gets right in front of my face, and its right wingtip is 5 feet from my face.
Oh, wow.
So again, I'm in an elevated position. This thing's just been gliding the entire time. I'm in an elevated position because, again, I've gone up the thing and I'm in the tree line now. And that's when I realized it doesn't have feathers. And what I thought had been its feet sticking out behind it, when a blue heron flies, like most cranes, right? They'll take their head and they'll, their long neck, and they'll double it on their back. So it sort of, gives them a better profile, and they'll stick their legs out from behind them. That's what I thought I was looking at. That's when I realized I wasn't looking at the feet sticking out. I was looking at a long flanged tail. And I just watched it glide by. I'm literally sort of where I'm at is sort of in a straightaway, and it just banks right and disappears. And it's at that moment my friend comes back. He's like, dude, what's taking you so long? I'm like, did you just see the pterosaur that, I think I said pterodactyl. You just see the pterodactyl that flew by? And he's like, he laughed. He's like, dude, I'm going. If you want sandwiches or not, I'm, stay here. And I went back and I was like, well, I know it's not a pterodactyl because, a pteranodon has a crest. This thing didn't have a crest. This thing had a tail. Pteranodons don't have tails. And this thing didn't have a beak. It just had a face, right? Like a lizard face, a reptilian face. So went back, flipped through my big book of dinosaurs. Dinosaur freak. Instant kid in the 80s is what you're going to do. And I found the Rhamphorhactoids, right? These are it's Rhamphorhacus means tooth-beaked. And these were smaller pterosaurs that had long flanged tails. And usually no crest. There's some question as to the Scaphognathus that's been discovered. It looks like it could have had some sort of a crest. There's a few that do have smaller crests, but by and large they don't have crests. And I just tell myself I couldn't have seen what I saw at all, because I live in Dallas, Texas, one of the largest conurbations in the United States. There's no way there's pterosaurs flying around where I live, and I haven't heard anything. So it's gone. We'll flash forward. Lyle Blackburn and Ken Gerhardt, known him for years at this point. They were doing a pilot for a show, and said, hey, does anybody have any interesting swamp stories, things like that? And I said, does a pterosaur in a creek count? He goes, hey, actually, we're doing it. That's one of our episodes.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because I was just being a smart aleck. And because I still, allow me for a moment of sidebar. I'm clearly not the brightest bulb in the drawer. I'd known Ken Gerhardt, the man who is literally the premier flying cryptid guy. He wrote the book Big Bird, the story of pterosaurs in Texas, and it's literally got what I described on the cover. And I knew about the sightings in Brownsville in South Texas. So yes, for those who are listening, there is a long history of pterosaurs in Texas, all of them in South Texas. For those of you who are new, Texas is really big. Really big. So at no point in my brain did I associate. I was like, well, no, that's all South Texas. There's no way this is happening up here. And then he tells me about these stories in these accounts that he has from southern Oklahoma. And they're describing the same thing I saw. And this moment is burned into my brain forever, because this is what made me go from the backside of all this, because I've been in the cryptid community and all this for a very long time on the back end. But they showed me this little figurine that one of the eyewitnesses had seen. And he didn't have a tail, but again, that's easily explainable. Most people don't, they're not really looking. But he did the S curve shape thing with the neck, where it's curling its head back and sort of sitting on its shoulders, just like what I saw. And it was at that moment I realized I wasn't hallucinating. I didn't have some sort of an episode. This was a real thing that happened to me. And these people having these encounters in southern Oklahoma, which is, just a little over an hour from my house, or where I grew up anyway. That's when I realized, okay, there's more people out there. And yeah, I started asking around, and once I kind of came forward with a lot of the stuff that I was into and working on anyway, stories started coming in. People I'd known for 20 years were telling me stories about goatmen and about their pterosaur sightings. So that's the thing. They are seen. I don't think we think, oh, they have wings, so they're like birds. No, things aren't nesting here. They're probably more like sea turtles. They move through on migratory patterns. But so they're not here all the time, but they do move through, they do glide. And I think they're hidden because the ones that I've seen that everyone has described, they've all said the same thing. I thought I was looking at a stork or a crane or a pelican that maybe had again, was holding something in its feet, which is why I saw for the tail. These are all creatures that sort of make, again, they all, if you look at them, they all fly the same way, right? They have the wings that sort of bend down because they glide. They have the S-curve thing going on with their neck. And they all thought they were looking at just a really big bird. And so until they took another look at it. It's the same story over and over and over again. And really prior to, movies like Jurassic World, if you saw a pterosaur, you saw a pteranodon. So if you were going to be, hallucinating, or if your brain was going to play a trick, it wouldn't be a ramfractoid. It would be something that most people were familiar with, right? If a pterosaur is attacking Raquel Welch, it's going to be a pterodactyl, right? That's what the Flintstones were always hanging out with. The smaller ramfractoids just weren't in the mix until very recently. So I just realized these things are real. They're moving through our country, but most people are just afraid to talk about them because you don't want to be the crazy person who saw a pterosaur. I didn't. I can't blame anyone for saying I haven't told my story of this fantastic thing that happened to me for 20 years. I didn't believe myself.
I agree with you there, my friend. I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Jason McLean is here tonight. What an interesting story about him encountering a pterosaur as a kid. How creepy is that? Are they out there still? Where are they hiding? Where'd they go? And we're going to get into Bigfoot. Dogman, Other Cryptids through northern Texas. Jason McLean is an author, a researcher. You can find his books on Amazon. This is Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, we are clear. The beard is probably not going to get much longer than this, maybe a little bit longer. Once I have to keep it somewhat professional because I do have a daytime desk job.
You can't go full ZZ Top.
Yeah, but I don't want to go like down here.
Yeah,
I think I'm over that. But a nice good hang, a nice shield would be maybe another inch or two. That would be nice.
I feel you.
Yeah,
I'd gotten really bushy and long, and I cut it way too short recently, so I gotta let it grow out a little bit more. Still kind of working on, like I said, the shape of my face. It's a little weird from time to time, so I'm still working on the overall vibe, as the kids would say, for the beard.
Yeah, you got to feel it.
Yeah,
you got to feel it. Yeah, so I'm in a time of change pattern right now. So it's almost time to start going to the gym again and getting healthy again because I've been feeling like crap physically lately. And I can feel my body saying, hey, Dave, you kind of need me in order to do this life thing.
Yep. No. So we actually put in a little bit of a gym in my garage. Actually, it was my Father's Day present. So I've been out there a lot, trying to make the most of it and trying to get into a routine where I'm doing it every day. And trust me, I feel you.
Yeah, I hear you there, man.
It's not the easiest thing to get into the habit of doing, but you got to do it.
Oh, I hear you there. Totally hear you there.
I'm trying to figure out what's being drawn. It's clearly landscape, but
well, let's take a peek here. Where's he going with this so far?
I'm doing a advertisement for my Saturday show.
A Dirty Filth.
Yes.
You know your cartoon of you that says filthy on it? Your drawing of you?
Which one?
You have a picture of you.
Me?
Oh, yeah, it's a cartoon. Your character.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to put that in the store on a t-shirt.
Yeah, sure. I got it somewhere around here. I'll send you do you want like a TIFF or a PDF or PNG or what file do you need? PNG teenagers. Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to bring the cat cam back on Saturday, Dave.
Nice. Cat cam has to stay now.
Yeah, I got it all hooked up nice and good now. There's a gargoyle on my lap right now as we speak.
Nice.
yeah, I'm more of a pen and ink kind of guy. I could never really get watercolors to do what I wanted them to do.
Oh, I like watercolors because you can make a mistake and go back and fix it fairly easily. But I'm not very good with acrylic, so I leave that to the professionals.
What I will say is this: again, I am classically trained, so really, when I paint, I want to paint in oils. I just haven't been able to do it for a long time because, it requires a lot of space and ventilation. The thing is, though, I do oil painting incorrectly in that I do so many glazes, it essentially becomes watercolor, but it just takes forever to dry, even with the dryers.
Yeah, ventilation is very important with that stuff. I did a couple oil paintings once just to try it out. And I'll just open my window. Yeah, I need a little more than that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I was kind of falling over at the end.
Particularly if you're using a lot of turpentine, you want some really good ventilation.
Yeah, everything starts getting all fuzzy.
All right, we got about a minute here. I think somewhere around there.
Ooh, I forgot the yellow for the daisy. It's very important to have a daisy in the picture.
All right.
I'm going to go to no swearing mode, Dave.
All right, we're coming back in 25 seconds. Still waiting for our first super chat of the night. Thank you to those who are even thinking about us. Thank you to those who've hit subscribe, rang that bell. Our store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com, so make sure you check it on out. And if you want to join our YouTube membership, please do so. We'd love to have you there. And here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now here, and we're underway. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Jason McLean, author, researcher, and we are hanging on out, talking all the monsters that scare the daylights out of us as we say hello to Jason. How you doing, my friend?
Always a pleasure to be here, man.
It's good to have you here. I'll even give you a hat tip. How about that?
Hey,
there you go.
It doesn't get better than that, man.
Yeah, it's true. That's very, very true.
Particularly with your luscious locks, your hair is your mane is impeccable, sir.
Well, it used to be. I've trimmed it all out. I kind of grew up out of that, but once again, when career changes happen, the hair will come back.
There you go.
I do want to try a nice long hair with my beard.
Yeah, I can't do that for obvious reasons.
If you need, I have extra hair here.
Hey, don't tempt me, sir. Don't tempt me.
Well,
so I guess where we last left our adventure.
Left off with you finishing up about your pterodactyl story, and it's kind of led you on your way to trying to find all sorts of monsters and legends out there. How did you come across Bigfoot and Dogman?
Well, so before we come to that, you asked a question when we went into the break. I want to address that first because I think in a lot of ways it's emblematic of the broader cryptozoological field, right? Which is how are these things hiding, right? And specifically to the pterosaurs that are seen in southern Oklahoma, North Texas, and out west. These are not that large. Right, because we think pterodactyl again. We think Raquel Welch. We think fighting King Kong. These things are probably only the wingspans 8 to 10 feet long or wide. At least the ones that are hanging around here. They look like cranes when they fly. They're I've got colors ranging from a reddish brown to a Payne's gray, like what I saw. It's probably sexual dimorphism. The thing is, they don't look all that weird. And when you realize you have something like a small population, they appear to be nocturnal, to be honest, or at least only moving in the mornings. At night, they're reptiles, so they're not out and about as much as birds are or a mammal would need to be. And they're not just hanging out in one spot. They're migrating, right? They're just moving. Again, like a sea turtle, right? You combine these factors with, again, as we talked about in the first act or the first section, the green wall, right? What do we do all day? We drive, we live in our little concrete islands. We drive on our little concrete bridges through, we've cordoned off nature. And when we're not cordoned off from it, we're on these stupid things all the time. The point is we're not looking up. We're not looking around. And if you don't take that second look, these things do very much appear to be just a blue heron or a pelican or whatever. Your brain isn't necessarily saying, hey, I need to keep on the eye out for something really weird happening, right? It's not that they're hiding, it's just that we're not looking. And it's a small enough population that interacts with us so infrequently, there's no reason for us to find them. Because again, no one's looking. Which brings us to Bigfoot. People will say, well, how does Bigfoot hide? Well, simple fact of the matter is, we're not really looking for him. I mean, there are people who are, certainly, but the vast majority, we're not out there looking for them. I hear I hear the question all the time. How do you know this guy probably just saw a bear, right? It's a misidentified black bear. My question is, how many black bear sightings are misidentified Bigfoot? Simple fact of the matter is, something weird happens. You don't necessarily default to it's a weird thing. Most people are just going to write it off as, I saw something big and hairy. It's probably a Bigfoot. Or it's probably a bear, rather, not a Bigfoot. I saw something weird. My eyes were just playing tricks on me, right? Our own expectation of reality, I think, also shapes our perception of it, right? It's not that it's changing, but rather most people aren't open to seeing the weird thing, so they don't see the weird thing. As an artist, the one thing that I've had to learn how to do is, how do people see things? Special truth here, people. No one's ever seen anything. Our eyes, we're not video cameras record. Light comes into our eyes and our brain is interpreting data and then creating a pattern that we can interact with. We don't actually see anything. That's why optical illusions even work. It's because your brain's tricked. If people are they've done these studies where people will go to markets in other countries. They're unfamiliar with the customs. They're unfamiliar with the fruit. And people can't really tell where one stall begins and one stall ends because the brain's still processing it. So if you have the vast majority of people just out there living their lives, sort of oblivious, just trying to do what they do, not thinking these things exist, or even actively believing they don't exist, that's really how they hide. It's our inability as a species to understand that they're there. 150 years ago, 200 years ago, people knew these things were out there, and we got stories of them. People weren't afraid to tell them. But you flash forward to now, people don't expect to see them, so they most people wipe it away. Then you have people like me and others, people that I've spoken to, who can't wipe it away because it was right in their face. But then they shut up like I did for 20 years. Because even though I believed these things were real, I couldn't imagine that it was real where I lived, because there's no way I wouldn't have heard about it. Except everyone did the same thing I did, which is shut up. Because you don't want to be the crazy person that saw a pterosaur in Dallas. You don't want to be the crazy person that saw a Bigfoot in Fort Worth, although there's a lot of people who did. It's one of the largest sightings of Bigfoot in history was in Fort Worth, Lake Worth monster. So as far as how I got into Bigfoot, kind of fell backwards into it, to be honest. It was, I'd like to blame Tex more, but he's really not the only one. So the fact of the matter is, again, there really weren't a lot of people looking for pterosaurs, but there were a lot of people looking for Bigfoot, and I kind of fell backwards into it. And so that's what. Then I got hooked up with Tex, and now I'm getting drug out to all these places, walking around looking for Bigfoot. I don't know what we're going to do when we find him, but that's. What
would you do? Let's talk about that. What would you do if all of a sudden you had an encounter? I'm not saying at night. I'm not saying, because I do believe that there is something spiritual about this creature. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, let's say you had an interaction with this creature 30 feet or closer. How would you react?
I would like to think I would react well, but you never really know. until you get that fight or flight going. I've talked to too many people who, they come across it and it changes their lives. In the real sense of fear and trauma that you get with a lot of people. Now, again, most of those people weren't looking for it, right? They weren't expecting it. But there's a lot of people who, when you have that encounter, it just changes everything in many cases, because they feel like their lives were genuinely in danger. And oftentimes the people that I've talked to, but again, they weren't really prepared for it. So until you're there, I don't think you really know. It's like anything else. You don't really know until you're pressed sometimes. But it goes back to, I'd like to think that I could be that I'd be smart about it, get the right photographs, take all the right information, but I could freak out and run away, or at least shuffle very, very quickly. My right knee does not allow me to run. Not anymore anyway. So but that's one of those things where it's like, well, what happens when you find them? Who knows? The simple fact of the matter is what we need, but we do need data. We need good data. And the simple fact of the matter, at a certain point, we may just be at a point where I'm not really looking for a live one, to be honest. I'm kind of hoping to come across remains, because I don't feel like killing one. If they could, again, until we have a body and it doesn't go Buffy the Vampire Slayer poof on us and turn to dust, we don't know if they're physical or not, or if there's something else. I think there's an argument to be made that there may be multiple phenomena going on. We're just all throwing everything in one box. And what we're really arguing over is the name Bigfoot and not really the phenomena. So
that's a good point.
One of the things I talk about with Tex all the time, you wake up in your bed, there's an 8-foot tall, dark figure with red glowing eyes standing over you. It's a demon. It's a shadow person, but you unzip your tent and you see the exact same thing. Suddenly it's a Bigfoot. When you look at a lot of things that are considered to be, sort of the typical, Bigfoot encounter, that where you don't actually see the Bigfoot, particularly at night, disembodied voices, female voices, things being thrown, the smell of sulfur. We have documents going back 2,000 years to Greece that we would say that's a poltergeist. Same phenomena. So the question becomes, are we interacting with one phenomena, or is it multiple phenomena? And in which case, I think there's sufficient evidence to say there is a physical creature, or a group, a very small group of highly mobile hominids running around, or even hominoids. We can't really say where they fit in anything until we have a body. But of hominoids running around, I think there's sufficient evidence to suggest that. But I think there's a much larger phenomenon that's interacting with us that we're either mistaking for Bigfoot, or it's hiding as Bigfoot, and probably even inviting interaction with itself by presenting itself as a Bigfoot often. And so the problem is, I think we have multiple phenomena and we're arguing over the name. But as a friend of mine, Dr. Dean Bertram has pointed out, he's a true 40, and he would just suggest maybe Bigfoot is what, all the material evidence that we have that I would point to, it's the same paranormal phenomena that just takes physical form. And then all the physical stuff that we're finding is simply what it is when it's material. And when it becomes material, who's to say it doesn't become biological? It's sort of a hubris to assume that if something were paranormal that became physical, it would be like a Star Trek hologram or something like that. There's no reason to think it wouldn't become fully biological. So until we have a body, and like I said, it doesn't go full Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we're not 100% sure what we're dealing with.
So you're sitting on the biological aspect of this creature.
I'm sitting on I think that what we have is multiple phenomena occurring. One is probably biological, but the other is definitely paranormal. The problem is I can't say that that's not the same phenomena, though. again, until we have enough data, all I can say is there's enough reason to think that there's something physical happening, but there's a lot of supernatural. There's a lot of paranormal. And I think the problem is instead of allowing the data to take us in a certain direction and actually listen to the data, we've got the last 60 years of people scrubbing data and not presenting data. So I think the problem is a lot of the things that we're arguing over is over very corrupted data. We don't really have a good picture of what we're looking at because people haven't been, I don't want to say not honest, but not all the information has been presented as it should have been for us to really go through and make decisions based on information. People have had agendas and biases and assumptions. And the problem is until we get rid of that and say, okay, what do we actually have? We're basically looking at, I would suggest we're not looking at one puzzle, like 1,000-piece puzzle. We're probably looking at 2 or 3 boxes that got dumped onto a table, and it's all upside down. So we can't even use like the colors or images to try and figure out which puzzle piece should go with what. So again, I would love for there to be a physical Bigfoot, right? It would be awesome.
Have you seen one?
That's where things get complicated. So the infamous Brown Springs, the aforementioned, location of tigers and hogs and other, fun things. So Tex had several daylight sightings of Bigfoot out there. And that's where he's had a lot of really interesting, things. First time I'm out there, it's me, Randy, and him. And I'm sleeping in my car because you have all these stories of people sleeping in the cars. They seem to want to come up and look in the car. Particularly, I snore badly. So I rolled the windows down just a little bit. And I set up a camera trap inside the car because I want to bring them to me. So I'm, it's just an attempt. While I'm asleep, I've had people try and say that this was something other than a dream, but I will never say it's anything other than a dream just because I know I was asleep, theoretically. But in the dream, I'm in my car looking out over the field in front of us, and it's nighttime. Like that's the thing that's really weird about it is it felt real enough, but like I felt like I was in my car looking out into the field, and I saw 3 figures that looked like they were made of fire. Not on fire, like they were burning, but rather made of it. If you've ever seen The Wrath of the Titans, the new one, it was the sequel to the remake of the Clash of the Titans. Kronos at the very end is sort of this lava monster, kind of like that, but without things falling off, right? They were contained, but it looked like it was, that's the only word I have, made of fire. And they were just walking across the field towards the car. I wake up. And I was like, that's weird. And I turn my head and I see this light just bouncing everywhere. And I'm like, why is Tex out there twerking in the middle of the night? And so I'm like, and I get up, I'm like, dude, you're going to run off whatever, the entire plan of all this we made, we cooked food that smelled really good. We left it out. It was to draw things in. You're out here just shucking and jiving with your headlamp. You're going to run everything off. He goes, and he asked me, he's like, were you and Randy out here a few minutes ago? I'm like, no, I was in my car sleeping. Randy's still asleep. And he's like, well, 2 people or, figures, bipedal figures were walking around his truck. One ran off towards, into the woods. The other one ran towards the river. And I'm like, Tex, I've been asleep since we parted like a couple hours ago. So daylight comes, we check the camera traps, and there was one camera trap that was where the direction that one of them had run off, right? And all the pictures before about 2 a.m., perfectly clear. Around 2 a.m., all the pictures are corrupted. After this weird 15-minute period, all the pictures after that are back to normal. So what did I see in that dream-like state? I can't tell you. All I can say is I had a dream. But it happened at the same time some other weird stuff happened. And they in text saw two figures. So I can't tell you if I saw Bigfoot or not. I don't know what I saw. I can't tell you. All I know is I had a dream that coincided with something happening that night. And unfortunately, we don't have enough information to say anything other than that. It's real hard, and I'll be honest, it's real hard for me to say that.
I get where you're going with that, okay? And I know you're a show me proof kind of guy. You like data and everything, but what is wrong with just accepting what happened as part of the adventure of trying to solve the phenomena?
Well, so I do accept it as part of the phenomena. The problem is, I think you look back over the last 60 years of this. And just like anything else, assumptions lead people astray. How often and just even things that don't have the elements of high strangeness that we interact with this, how often has just people's assumptions and preconceived notions led them to not make a discovery or led them down a complete, and then, they're 20, 30 years down the line, like, oh, hey, I missed something, right? It happens all the time. When I look at the data, I just take that step back, I see clearly paranormal things occurring. And then we have physical evidence that's more consistent with a living creature. Now, the problem is I can't say that these aren't the same thing, that we may just be dealing with something that is so different that we don't have a box for it yet. I think it's a real possibility. I can't say no to that. But at the same time, I don't want to assume that that's what we're dealing with and miss something along the way. I don't want my preconceived notions to necessarily distract me from something that's right there in front of me, right? Oftentimes our assumptions lead us astray. And I'm just doing my level best to let data talk. And again, we're another 5-10 years down the line. We don't have a body, we don't have something really substantial. I think we're gonna have to call it and say, look, whatever this is, the material evidence that we have is of something that's not traditionally, I call them nobies, naturally occurring biological entities, right?
I will cut you off right there because we have just over 2 minutes to go here. I want to ask you this then. AI, it's the talk of the town right now. How are we going to be able to trust any video coming forward?
That's a great question. Honestly, I don't know that I trust that you're sitting there on the other side of the camera.
Good point. I think I am.
AI is a really interesting question overall, but that's the thing. We're coming to a point where nothing can be trusted. And that's a really scary place to be if you're actually trying to come to the truth of what we're dealing with. And it's going to make we already had a problem with hoaxers to begin with, and people just not, maybe misunderstanding something. Now we're going to come to a point where literally no photographic evidence can be trusted by anybody at any time. And it's a scary place to be for what we do.
I look at it it seems like weekly now, not monthly or bi-monthly, but weekly. AI is improving its game so quickly. And it's almost like biologically morphing itself into perfection or said perfection. There's still a lot of bugs to work out. But when I look at what we are seeing on camera now or on screen, on social media, the people who are really talented with it, they're creating near perfection now. And I think the days of us being able to use video evidence unless we've caught it ourselves is going to be over. I hate to say that, because no matter if you have the real thing or not, you're going to be accused of faking it. And Jason, I'm going to get you to hold on to that thought as we wrap up hour number 1. Hour number 2 with author, researcher Jason McLean coming up on Spaced Out Radio as we kick off hour 2 next. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Jason, we are clear. We're going to turn things over to Dirty Filth. We just got under 6 minutes here, okay?
Cool.
All right. Hello, Dirty.
Hello, Dave. I got to have a swig of water first because my tubes are non-lubricated. All right. Everybody was, everyone was talking about Tiger King previously. Well, him and I used to write letters to each other till they moved him to his other prison. I even got a picture of him. Too close. Really? Love you. Yeah.
Wow.
So I sent him a drawing, Tiger King. And he wrote back, he said, "Filth, amazing drawing. I put it in by 8x10 and kept it. Thanks for the support, and no, I send my love. Trump has my pardon. Please ask everyone to tweet him to sign it already. Please be my voice. Love you, Joe Exotic." So I had to show my receipt for that one because nobody ever believes it. But so it's kind of I'm just weird like that, and I send cartoons to all types of people in the world. So, but let me show you a dog man. 1 second here, I gotta grab him. Oh no, wait. It's way up there. Oh no, collapsing. Beware the dog man. It's a little plushie my accomplice made. He's absolutely vicious too. This was the prototype for the dog man that we do, because she turns all my cartoons into plushies of all the aliens and Bigfoots and junk. So I've always kind of thought Dogman was pretty neato. Oh no, I've ruined the camera. Crap. Well, nonetheless. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's having a wonderful. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I have the same problem with my cat. Like, I'm trying to do some pre-recorded art classes, and I was, trying to, I can edit my lectures into the video, but I started working on the hand stuff, and it just kept going in and out. So, auto focusing. So I got to figure that part out. So yeah, it happens to me all the time.
I'm not the best with technology, but it's kind of get a little bit better. I draw a show on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Mountain Time for about an hour, and I just kind of sit and ramble to the audience, and I've been sort of getting it together, trying to figure it out. And the first time I started it, I forgot because I never used StreamYard before, so I just clicked go live, and I didn't realize you had to confirm click to go live. So I'm sitting there rambling away for about 10 minutes, and everyone's texting me just like, "Dirty, are you okay, man? Like, what's wrong?" I'm like, "No," I text them. I'm like, "Hey, everybody, everyone thinks I'm fine." I'm like, "I'm not doing good. I'm fine." And then I realized, oh, you have to actually click go live after you click the thing. Whoops.
Yep.
And then so the little hiccups because I'd never actually done anything like that before, so it worked out good anyways. It was fun. I just have a lot of fun doing it because I just like drawing cartoons, and if I can make someone's day a little bit better just for cartoon, or they get a chuckle out of it or something, then that's perfect. I'm all right with that. I just spent the entire evening scanning all my drawings for my third book. I got like 87 drawings for it now. It's just
nice.
I've got a problem. I got a picture of Dave getting a Canadian massage too in my second book here. Where is it? Right here. There's Dave getting a massage from a Bigfoot. It's like, could you whack my spine a few times with a hockey stick, please?
That's hilarious.
That's an actual photo that Dave let me have. So, and then here was we went to Vegas, and here's Dave and Sasquatch and a lizard playing craps at the Golden Booger.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been drawing cartoons. I originally started back in like 2018, I think. I sent Dave a drawing, and then he's like, "Do you want to maybe send a drawing every week or something?" And then 2022, Nicole Sakic, she used to help with us some of our stuff on Spaced Out Radio. She goes, "We should get Filthy drawing during the show." I was like, "I think I could do that." And well, now here I am.
Well, there you go.
That's
how things work.
And now I got to go give the cat snacks. It's very important. They're bugging me.
Oh, believe me, I understand that.
Dirty Phil, thank you for another awesome cartoon, buddy.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you later, buddy. Dirty Filth, everyone. Filthy.com, his website. Go get his books on Amazon. Channel Warhorse, how you doing? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Nice to see you. And anybody else hop in here? No. It's a quiet night in the neighborhood tonight. Spiderbite, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. We got 35 seconds before we come back. Old Davey's going to get comfortable and
readjust here. There you go.
Yeah, always got to readjust. Thank you tonight to Necessary Dialogue and Mel WD40 for our super chats tonight. Thank you to everybody new who hit subscribe, rang that bell. Dr. Bob, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming on in. Our YouTube membership is open, and you can always shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so check it on out. We're coming back in 3 seconds. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jetatura. Jetatura is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in our guest, Jason McLean. He is an author and cryptid paranormal researcher out of this beautiful state of Texas. And Jason's books can be found on Amazon. Jason, thank you so much for coming on in. We appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, man. Again, love the show. Love what you do. Always a pleasure to be here. I want to touch on one thing, and then I got a story for you.
Sure.
Sort of, I think under really illustrates the conversation that we're having as far as AI goes. Unfortunately, until we have corpus delicti, until we actually have the bodies, if anything, we really don't know if we're interacting with something paranormal or physical at all, right? And like that, I hate for that to be the case, but there is sufficient reason to think that there's a lot of physical things running around, but there's far more evidence to think that there's something paranormal going on. Probably a lot of paranormal things. I think we would do well to take Joshua Cutchin's book, The Ecology of Souls, very literally. That the realm of what we would call supernatural or paranormal is an ecosystem of differing things, and so we may be staring into interacting with things that are varied and many, and we're thinking it's all the same thing. We may have a lot going on that just isn't even on our table. We don't have a language for it, right? You go back 600 years and try and tell people about germ theory, they're going to look at you like you're crazy, because the idea of things being so small that you can't see, it's just not on the table for them until someone invents the microscope. We ain't got the Spookatron 5000. patent pending. So we don't understand what this reality even that we're interacting with even looks like. We don't even know what the material world is. There's a lot of talk in the physics realm right now about how string theory with the capital S is basically falling apart. There's a lot of things that people have taken as have been pursuing for 20, 30 years, and they're like, this is coming to nothing. We may not even have the technology to really observe what's going on in our own physical world, much less something else. So we need to just keep an open mind that things may not be as cut and dry as we'd like. I'd like to think that what I saw was physical, and if we find a body, and again, there's plenty of accounts of these things being killed throughout history, to think that what I saw was a Nobi, not a naturally occurring biological entity. But I can't say that it was until we have evidence for it, until we've actually got a body. I can't say that what I saw wasn't in my head, that what all these other people haven't seen or have seen isn't in their head for some reason. I can't say that. All I can say is this is what it appears, and we got to be open to it, and we got to be willing to allow our pet theories and our assumptions to be shattered if the data shows up. But here's where things get really weird. I'd like to think the physical things are physical and spiritual things are spiritual, but you want to talk about scary, we are in the right time frame for it. In Metroplex Monsters, one of the accounts is of a young woman living in Oak Cliff, which is essentially part of Dallas. It's a part of Dallas would be the right way to think of it. It was its own city, kind of got eaten up by Dallas, right? It's on the southern side. She was living with her aunt, who was the curandara for Oak Cliff. And she and a friend of hers were staying out late, hanging out at the McDonald's that's just down the street. I've actually been to that McDonald's. I know where this all occurred. And, this is back when that one shut down, because it's in the 90s. And they were just letting her, and their friends were just letting them stay there and hang out while they shut everything down. It's over. They're leaving. They're walking home. It's just a couple blocks, right? And they start noticing it's a little too dark. Because, again, this is not downtown Dallas, but it's not Dallas either, right? This is pretty loud. It's always bright. Even at, 12:30, 2 o'clock. You're going to hear things, and it's going to be bright. It was a little too dark. It was a little too quiet. And they started feeling like they were being watched. They're walking down the street, and then they hear something crash into one of the trees that's behind them. And they're like, did a horse just get thrown into a tree? What the heck is going on? Because it was really loud in the tree. And they're like, okay, let's just move a little further down the street here. And then they hear it move from that tree to this other tree, and the tree starts shaking. And they're like, okay, that's really weird. Start hustling a little bit faster. It does it again. So her friend looks at her and says, your aunt's a curandara. It's probably after you. I'm out, and runs the other direction. And so she looks at the woman who I interviewed. Looked at, you're gonna be mad when I'm dead. And so she pulls out the switchblade that she keeps on her, because again, this is Oak Cliff back in the 90s. You kept a switchblade on you if you were a young lady. And so she's hauling, and this thing's moving from tree to tree, following her. And then she gets to her house, and she uses the knife, and she's banging on the window as she comes around the front so that her aunt can open the door for her, because it's locked, and she wasn't supposed to be out. And she's just right. And she opens, like, what's going on? And the tree, the oak, I've seen the oak tree in the front yard. The thing crashes into it, and it's bending down, and all she can hear it. She doesn't see it. She just hears it. And her aunt starts screaming and swearing and praying in Spanish. And she's got one of those smocks on that has all the pockets. And so she's got all of her stuff, and she's throwing it and swearing, and she gets inside and she's like, don't turn around. She's telling the young lady, the aunt is, the Kirandara is telling her, don't turn around. But she does. And she says it was one of the larger branches was basically all the way down and touching the grass. And what she saw was La Lechuza. It was essentially imagine an owl the size of a person, but with the face of a woman. And it's staring right at her. And she gets her inside and she's like, she's taking eggs and she's smashing the eggs on her head. And she's saying, you go take a shower right now. She takes the clothes, and she had just bought brand new Doc Martens. All my Gen Xers will know how painful this is. She's like, you go. And so the clothes get burned, right? All of them, including the Doc Martens. And she's, showering and she's throwing all the stuff on her, and she's still, the aunt is still swearing and praying and all this. And she leaves her alone. And while she's drying off, she hears on their second story window. She's like, okay, that's weird. She goes to her bedroom, now in the window in her room. She knows it's the thing. It's La Lechuza. So she stays. She doesn't do anything. As the week goes on, she can hear it tapping on windows at different times. Oh. She skips school a couple days later to go to the West End, watch a movie. She could hear with the guy. She could hear the wings, like it was in the back watching her moving around. She could hear it. After about a week, it went away. Here's the problem. Clearly supernatural. But it was affecting the physical world. It was tangibly there. The trees were shaking when it landed in them. It was bending this oak tree over. So clearly something supernatural can take an absolutely physical form and affect the natural world. It's a big monkey wrench in whatever worldview you want to have. Clearly, it's not like I have a spiritual worldview, straight up. And I think these things, I think the supernatural can become physical. But do they become biological? I don't know. Here's the thing. What happens if someone had shown up while that thing was in the yard and shot it? What would have happened? Would it have disappeared? Would it have just sloughed off the bullet? Would it have died? And we'd have this owl woman sitting in the front, in the front yard while the cops pull up. Would it have turned back in, or would it have turned into the witch that it had transformed from? Because I got stories like that too. We have stories of these things going back thousands of years. They're the harpies of Greek mythology. It's the idea of there being witches transforming into creatures of the night, like owls or bats if you're in Papua New Guinea or the Philippines. It goes all the way back. So is this a witch that had transformed into, and there's a reason, I won't go, again, private reasons, but again, her aunt's a Kirandara, right? This could just be rivalries. Could be a creature that was summoned by a witch to go after her for whatever reason. We don't know. We don't have the information. So what we have is a world that doesn't really like to play by the rules we would like it to play by. And that's where we are. 200 years ago, nothing I'm saying would have sounded unusually weird. I said, yeah, of course things like that happen. They knew it happened. They interacted with it. It's only been over the last 120 years that, you know, we were too good for a supernatural worldview, and we eschewed anything that would offend those sensibilities. So what we're trying to do, what all of us are trying to do in this field, is collect better data. We are trying to catch up on 120 years of, probably 140, really, all things told, of propaganda that we live in an exclusively material world. We're just trying to compensate for that.
I mean, I get that, and I can really appreciate where you're going with that, because the timeline of the way things have happened and the legends and everything, I think we overlook that at times. I think we overlook these legends and lore, whether it's from, you know, the Mexican population that has been there for hundreds of years, the First Nations populations that have been here for thousands of years. We tend to overlook, when I say the Mexican population, I apologize, thousands of years for them as well, going back to the Incans and Mayans and everything. I think we overlook the potential that a lot of these, what we take as stories, actually have any truth to them.
Well, and again, it's every culture. Like, none of these things are unique to any one culture. That's sort of the bigger point, is that, particularly if you take that larger step back and you sort of allow for every culture to sort of describe things in their own way, there are themes that are very common, very present. And there is no good explanation, except for there is something that we're interacting with, that we've always interacted with. It's only been in the last 120, 140 years that we didn't want to talk about it. Again, you go back 120 years, 140 years, people talked about this stuff. Your great-grandmother knew these things. Your great-great-grandmother knew these things. And there were protocols on how to interact with this stuff, how not to interact with this stuff. I often wonder how often are people being injured because because we don't have those protocols set up. We assume they don't matter anymore. You know, people talk about Pilates, missing 411, all that. How often do people go missing in cities? We just assume that the weird stuff is out in nature. It's not. It's there too. In fact, it's a perfect place for a lot of this stuff to hide. How often are people being possessed or being taken or being pulled in by whatever is out there, and they go missing, or they show up dead and nobody knows how or why? I have a sneaking suspicion a lot of people have been hurt because we've been pretending that this stuff isn't real. Imagine walking around. If someone came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, I'm going to go out into the woods and the creeks, and I don't think snakes are real. I don't believe in copperheads or moccasins or rattlesnakes," I would look at him and say, "You're a moron, and you're going to get yourself hurt real bad, because I assure you they're there, and they will hurt you." We would assume anyone who claims there's no such thing as snakes and just goes into a Texas creek has a mental deficiency or is suicidal. But is our entire society, has all of modern society not just said, yeah, it's all material, there's nothing supernatural, we don't need to worry about that, we're too smart for that? How many people are getting bitten? And they're destroyed one way or the other. Because the reality is, the supernatural is real. We no longer have the assumptions that we had 200 years ago on how to interact with it or not to. One of my great fears Again, one of those common themes that every culture tells you not to do is say the name of these things. We talk about it all the time. I wonder, am I participating in whatever's happening now? Because
let me ask you this then, as
Yep.
we got about 4 minutes to go before break. What do you think the phenomena is?
I'll say it this way. I agree with Joshua Cutchin's point that it's an entire ecology of the paranormal, of the supernatural. I believe in angels and demons, but I think the simple fact of the matter is those are very broad terms, and they do not begin to encompass what we're interacting with. Not all of it. I think there's a lot of things that are there that have rights to be there that may not necessarily be aligned the way we would think. I think there's stuff out there that is created by witchcraft. I think there's stuff that isn't really even on our table of things to consider. I think so. It's not one or two. I think it's an entire ecology, an entire ecosystem of the supernatural and the paranormal interacting in ways that we are completely unaware of, and that leaves us very, very vulnerable in a lot of ways. I think it hurts a lot of people.
Do you think it's God made?
I think most of it is.
What part is and what part isn't?
So if you use the sort of traditional Hebraic understanding of the Nephilim, that when they die, they become disembodied spirits that possess people. When we talk about demons, the things that possess people, you're actually talking about the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. So I would suggest that's clearly not God-made. That's why they are what they are. I'm also not unconvinced. Again, we can't say, we don't have one definitive one way or the other, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we, either through accident or deliberate magical use and or some other vehicle, have probably created paranormal creatures, supernatural entities that may not have a biological origin, may be an amalgamation of thoughts and beliefs or practices. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a way for things to come through. But I do know that the vast majority of it is probably created by God. And again, an ecosystem. Everything has a role to play. But that along the way, some of these things got corrupted. Some of these things may not be corrupt, but they may not be our friends, right? They're just doing what they're supposed to do. And we're interacting with them, and we may offend them from time to time. They're like, hey, I got a job to do. You're messing with my stuff. I'm gonna interact with you because you don't show me the proper respect. But then there's also stuff like disembodied Nephilim that we would call demons, and probably these other things that are being created by who knows what. That, and again, it may not. I think the problem is we think, well, if it's supernatural, then it's intelligent or has a mind. Going back to AI, we can make computers that are intelligent and run programs and algorithms. They're not sapient. There may be non-sapient supernatural entities running around, essentially something we created, the paranormal equivalent of an AI, running around causing trouble because we decided that we were going to do something that we probably shouldn't have done. I think there's an entire ecosystem out there. And the problem is, I think we're interacting with it very naively, and it's creating a body count.
When we come back from the break at the bottom of the hour, I do want to get into some Dogman with you, because, this is a creature that I don't know whether it's real or not, whether it's a werewolf or not. I just know that if it is real, I want nothing to do with it. It scares the daylights out of me just thinking about this creature, that one day I might have a run-in with one of these. And we're going to get to know about this creature next and what you think it is. Jason McLean is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are going deep into the Dogman world. You can find his books on Amazon. You can find his books any online network. You can find his work all over social media, his podcast work, even his beard trimming skills. They're right there, and of course his YouTube channel, which is, I believe, at sirupapers.com or .youtube. It's on YouTube. Yep. I apologize about that.
Oh, it's okay. I've got a .com there as well.
Yes. So go check it on out. Space Out Radio continues after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Paramarv, over there posting everything every time we go to a break. I appreciate that.
By the way, I did a little checking up here from a little thing you said about how large Texas is.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what Texas's size was compared to British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, do the maps ever have it wrong. So I checked it on out. British Columbia, where I live, is 40% bigger than Texas.
Sounds about right.
I didn't think it was that big. I thought they were pretty even, like dead even.
Hey, Canada's a big place. I mean, all of it. It's massive, but it's also very lightly populated. Like there are things like you could tell me anything was going on in Canada, and I'd believe it. I got reports of giant beavers coming out of there. Like you could tell me that Bigfoot were fighting wars. The tribes of Bigfoot were fighting wars with mastodons. I'd buy it. No one would be around to see it anyway.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Pat Leal Films, how you doing? Good to see you. Just Ryan from New Orleans. How you doing? Rashid, nice to see you tonight. Lou Cruz, thank you for coming on in. Paul Demon, what's happening? Are we being normal tonight?
Is that a very good thing? Being normal on this show?
No. I have my chat room is not a democracy. It's not free speech. Okay, it's a Davocracy where I have rules that you play by, and sometimes Paul Demon, when he's found Grandma's special cupcakes up in the top right corner of the kitchen, he starts calling my guests liars. And sometimes, not often, very rarely, but I think when he finds the special cupcakes, he calls my listeners liars, and that's the one thing I will not. There's a few things I won't put up with, but I will never put up with a guest being called a liar just because you don't believe him.
Oh, that's not not the worst thing I've been called.
No, but I'm very strict on my chat room.
Oh, you gotta be.
And normally, like Paul's a good guy. He's normally really good, but every now and again,
Yeah. No, you gotta interact with people. Even in the digital space, we should always be kind to one another.
Well, here's the way I look at it. And it's not just for Paul, it's for anybody. I don't care whether you agree with the guest or not. Okay. But just remember that guest that person is taking 2 hours out of their day to spend with you. Okay. To give you what they have learned, their knowledge, their understanding of what their research has learned. And number two, you're getting the program for free. I don't charge for it. Right. So, and there's so much hate in our communities right now that I refuse to put up with it in my chat room. Like I never, up until about a year ago, I I was on the verge of another breakdown. Like I could just feel it coming.
Mhm.
And I never used to block people in my room. I used to tell my wrenches, no blocking people unless they make some sort of horrible comment.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't put up with racism at all or any bullshit like that. And after what happened last year with a couple people where they were attacking, like literally attacking my guests.
Yeah.
I just said, you know what? I'm done. Like it was stressing me out to the point where I just said, you know what? I shouldn't have to question whether or not I'm going to do my show because somebody wants to be an asshole in my chat room.
Oh, absolutely not.
And oh yeah, I have control. So we're coming back in 2 seconds.
Go for it.
Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you want to listen to this show for free on any major podcast network, you can. Just pull us up at Spaced Out Radio. YouTube as well. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we get to our guest, good friend of ours, Jason McLean, hanging on out. You can find all of his books online. His research takes him into the world of Dogman and Bigfoot and so much more. Jason, welcome back.
Always a pleasure. So yeah, Dogman.
Dogman
So
it is.
We got plenty of reports of Dogmen. And they don't. And what's funny is when you hear about them with antlers. So let me jump to your earlier question is, are they real? Well, I guess that kind of depends on what you think on what you mean by real. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is people are clearly interacting with these things, and we have a long history. Every culture has a history connected to canines. You know, these pair of paranormal canines of some form pop up all throughout history. Every culture. It just seems like what we are calling Dogman is just a new version of it, or just our interpretation of the phenomena more than that. I don't think that I don't think there's any reason to think that, again, what I would call a NOBI, a naturally occurring biological entity, you know, like your dog, your cat, a cow. There's just no reason to, you know, unlike, say, Bigfoot, where you can look throughout the fossil record and say, hey, we've had hominids that are quite large, right? You know, Gigantopithecus and others. We have apes today. There's reason to think that something went that way. There's no reason to think that there's a naturally occurring bipedal canid. That's just not anywhere in anything that we've ever found. But every culture talks about people turning into them, turning into some sort of weird canine creature. We have plenty of accounts of weird canine creatures with paranormal abilities popping up in culture. So it really just seems like the Dogman is a modern interpretation of that phenomena more than anything else, which is why they seem to, again, they appear wherever they seem to want to be. And and there's different forms. Like I said, I've got accounts of Dogmen with antlers, getting a little chimeric there. So, but we got him.
I've never heard of the Dogman with antlers. I mean, that just adds to the creep factor of it all.
Oh yeah. Well, and again, I think it really lends to the idea of, let's take a step back to the first hour, right? We've never actually seen anything. Our eyes are collecting light. Our brains are interpreting the data. The reason optical illusions work is because your brain's being tricked, because you're not actually seeing it. Your brain's processing it. I have plenty of stories. My wife's family are missionaries. The church I grew up in was very, very big in supporting missionaries. I've got tons of stories of people interacting with priests and, like witch doctors, priests, straight out occultists, transforming into creatures. The question becomes, okay, are they physically changing, or are we perceiving the supernatural entity that they've connected with manifesting? I think the problem is we think, well, if we see it, then it must be there physically. It may not have to be there physically, but that may just be your brain showing you what's there. And that's just how you're interpreting it. It may not be, if we could take a photograph or a video, we may see nothing there, but you can see it. But it could be there physically. Could be something that's been, again, like La Lechuza from the previous story. Could be something that someone has turned into. Could be something that has been summoned and is there physically. Could be something that someone has summoned and is there supernaturally. And we can see it and perceive it, but it may not be there in a way that would be observable to other people. Again, she could hear La Lechuza moving around at the movie theater. Nobody could see anything, but she could hear the rustling of the feathers. So if the world is more interesting than what we are presented with, we need to take other possibilities into account as to how this stuff's interacting with us. Again, 600 years ago, you couldn't explain germ theory to anyone because it's not on the table. Our reality may be far weirder than we think. And if so, we need to not necessarily get all high and mighty with how we think reality works, because it may not work that way, which means these things could be interacting with us in ways that we aren't anticipating.
So do you believe that this creature is some sort of tulpa phenomena, or actually physically out there creating havoc for the forest?
I don't think that those are necessarily I don't think it's an either or. It could, going back to the idea that there's an entire ecosystem out there, and that we've interacted with things like this for every culture's interacted with something like this for thousands of years. It may be that that's just the form that it is taking to interact with us. Or that it could be that we are assuming that's what it should look like. And because of cultural programming, right? We've all grown up with Wolfman stories and Wolfman movies and The Howling and all that. It could just be that our brains are saying, hey, wildness, the imagery of the canine, it becomes a werewolf to us. One of the things that we really need to take more seriously in this community is we need to look at folklore and these histories and say, folklore is not phenomena. It's something I say all the time. Folklore is not phenomena, but we need to stop picking and choosing what about the folklore that we do. We have a really bad tendency of just picking and choosing elements of folklore instead of saying, well, what is folklore? It's the story of the people, right? It is telling you about the culture. It may be that these entities interact with us on a cultural level. That's why it's when we see similar phenomena from different cultures, and there's themes that are present through all of them, but then they have very specific cultural nuances and appearances. It may be that our cultural expectations are altering how they're interacting with us and the forms that they're taking. And it could be, again, there may be multiple things. We're just calling a bunch of things, dogman. It may be that it's all of the above. It may be that that these creatures are taking this form because they have this connection to the canine, and that's our cultural expectation. At the same time, it could be that there are witches running around transforming themselves into these things, into these canine things, for whatever reason. It's not necessarily an either or until we got the Spookatron 5000. We may not know.
I'm having a power thought here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Dogman would be the yin to Bigfoot's yang?
I think that's making a lot of assumptions about what Bigfoot's doing. Right? It may, again, this may, how do I say it this way? Is the rhinoceros the yin to the elephant's yang? No, they're just part of an ecosystem. If there is this broader ecosystem, again, some things created by God, some things not, but they have purposes, they have niches. We may be trying to, again, put things into a perspective that makes sense to us. But that's like asking Super Mario to try and make sense of our universe, right? The old 8-bit Mario, he lives in a two-dimensional world. He goes up, down, left, right, and that's it. He couldn't understand the idea of going around the pipes because that's not an option for him. If these things, if the supernatural is real, and I think that it is, I believe that it is, and it's interacting with us, and I think that it is, I think the evidence is overwhelming that it is. It may be from a higher dimension. That's how we would use, if we want to use our Star Trek language, right? It may be that it's because it's from the higher dimension, it's interacting and doing things that we have no reference for. It would be like trying to explain to Super Mario how to go around the pipes. He couldn't understand it. The problem is we're trying to take something that we just may not have a way to even understand or comprehend what's happening. And we're trying to make it fit into, again, a cultural mold, an understanding. We may be trying to create boxes to put them in that they would never fit in. That they just pass through the dang box, right? Because they're like, there's no box for me. I think it may be that we're interacting with creatures and entities that, again, we think they look like something, but they're taking whatever form that they want or is culturally appropriate. They're doing things that matter to them, and they may have an entirely different agenda from what we think it is. They just may be out there doing their job. And that job may be something completely incomprehensible to us. I think one of my favorite little memes is, I've seen recently that I think about a lot, is there's this picture of a diver trying to give a shell to this crab, I think, or an octopus that was using this plastic cup, right, as protection. And it said, imagine some incomprehensible creature descends from above and goes out of its way to communicate that it thinks your hat is ugly. We may be the crab in this scenario. And whatever these things are, we may not have a way of understanding what's happening. And it may be that even trying to understand it is actually, in trying to put it in a narrative that we would understand and that would make sense to us, may actually be putting us in a box and actually keeping us from understanding what's happening.
Could be, but people are having encounters with something that they are believing is a bipedal dog-like creature that looks like a werewolf without clothing on.
Yeah. Although sometimes they have clothing.
And to me, that's a big difference. Like, I can't imagine Dogman walking through the forest and say, hey, I'd look good in this Mac jacket and pair of Levi's, but let me cut it off at the knees.
Yep. And it may be that that's not what's happening. It may be that that was a person that decided that it needed, that for whatever reason, needed to be something different.
So you think werewolves are potentially real as well then?
I think there's a lot of things that are potentially real. Again, I'm not convinced that all dogman sightings are necessarily the same thing. We could be dealing with shapeshifters. Again, I have too many accounts from too many people that I know personally and have a good reputation to say that that's not a possibility. Every culture on the planet has had some form of shapeshifting into canines or something similar, right? For, again, different reasons, but that's just like at the end of the day, if I'm going to look back and take history at least seriously and the narratives of these cultures seriously, then I have to accept the possibility, at least, that from whatever reason, from time to time, people are transforming into things. Now, again, how does that work? No clue. Are they physically changing? Is it a supernatural entity materializing out of them and they become the conduit for that thing? I don't know how that works, but I have too many accounts of people saying it was a person 1 minute, then it stopped being a person and became something else entirely, or this thing was here and then it turned into a person. I got a lot of stories both ways. So all I can say is, for me to say that's not a possibility is ignorant, because that means I have to call a lot of people, a lot of culture liars. And I don't want to do that, because at some point I have to trust that I have to take the stories and say, okay, that's the thing. Now, does that explain all of the phenomena? Maybe, but maybe not. Because again, there's other canid creatures, hellhounds, and other things running around throughout the annals of history. The beasts of Gévaudan, right? It's a weird world out there. I think that we are trying to come out of 120, 140 years of propaganda, and we're behind the curve. And we may be trying to fit a lot of things into a worldview that is woefully inaccurate or inadequate to explain what we're interacting with. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance that there are people running around turning into these things. But then I think there's also a really good chance that not every dogman is necessarily one of, some transformed human. It could be something else happening out there as well. But I certainly don't have any reason to think that what we're interacting with is a naturally occurring biological entity like a cow or a platypus.
The platypus man would be scary to deal with.
It would be. Are you kidding? Things running around laying eggs. It's sensing electricity. It's got venom sacs in its elbows. Like, that would be terrifying.
It would be. Totally would be. We got 6.5 minutes to go before we have to say goodnight to you. Jason McLean is our guest tonight. What's the best dogman story that you have heard?
Honestly, my favorite dogman story, it's between the two. One is actually Tex's, right? Tex Wesson's. It's broad daylight. The thing walked out in front of him. It just looked at him. He got a good look at it, and it changed his life. Shocked him. I'll make it real quick for the listeners, since we had a short amount of time. He was out hunting. He's 16. He's got a gun, 22 caliber. Not going to do much against that, but this thing walks out on in front of him bipedally. He called it a werewolf because it's the only word that he had. And then it ran off into the tall grass. It terrified him. It shook him. That's as real a story as you're ever going to hear. And he's not going to lie about that. It changed his life. My other favorite dogman story actually comes, I'm terrible with names. Just forgot her name. The woman who literally wrote the book on Dogman, the Beasts of Bray Road.
Linda Godfrey.
Thank you. I saw her. I could see it in my eyes, in my head. But there's a story about it. Comes out of the book where a night watchman at a church is just doing his normal rounds, and he sees this dogman, right? And it turns to him and says, Gadara, and then runs off into the wilderness or into the cemetery and disappears. Gadara is the place where Jesus drove out the demons that went into the pigs.
This is what this creature said to Tex.
Well, no, not to Tex. There's the Linda Godfrey's book.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like those are my two favorite stories because they're both ends of this story, right? Like Texas was a physical thing, broad daylight. This other thing, it's at night, and it turns and talks to him, and it says something that has clearly supernatural import. So it's not just the one story; it's both entwined. It's like, again, we may just be dealing with something much bigger and broader than we assume that it is, and these things are clearly there. The question is, are we seeing them for what they really are? Are they manifesting themselves in ways that are culturally appropriate? Or do they even... because they are interacting with us. They're choosing to. But how much of this is on their... It seems to be entirely on their terms, and I'm not certain that we're not just being messed with. It may... Again, going back to the idea of this... this guy trying to give this little crab a new place to live, right? It just we may be interacting with things that we can't really understand, and it may have an entirely different agenda than we realize. And that's assuming it's all one thing and not multiple things as well. Could be that what Tex saw was some dude that decided he needed to be a wolf that day for some reason. And go eat a horse. Could be that it's something else. Again, if I had to put money on it, I don't think we're dealing with something that naturally exists as what it is. Beyond that, I think we need to keep a very open mind because, again, history tells us this world's way weirder than we want it to be.
I love the way you put that it's way weirder. Why do you think we have such a tough time accepting that?
I think for the last 120 years, we've been trying to make, we had a cultural revolution. We went from an agrarian culture to an industrialized culture, and science was captured by people who had a very strict atheist materialist view, and that became the dominant paradigm. It isn't that science is... A lot of people say it's science versus religion. No, it's two different religions. Science is only a tool. It's how you do things. But there is an atheist materialist worldview that captured academia and said, this is what reality looks like. And we all, and sort of as a culture, said, okay, you get to tell us what reality looks like. And they just said, we're working from this assumption that there is no supernatural, magic isn't real. There's only this stuff that you can see, touch, taste, and that's it. That nothing else exists. That we're recovering from 120 years of that propaganda. Because I would suggest the reason that became so popular, particularly with the movements of when you realize that there was this big spiritist movement of the 1800s and late 1800s as well, it becomes even more profoundly odd. But if there is only just this material stuff, if this is all we are, all there is, humans become very cheap cattle, and you don't have to feel bad about doing terrible things to them. And it's right after we had that that sort of perspective revolution that we had the first two world wars. We don't need excuses to be bad to each other. Historically speaking, humans are terrible to one another. Genocide is our favorite pastime as a species. But the West and many other places adopted a materialist worldview that allowed for the excuse of really terrible, terrible things, and still does. And that's
Jason,
part of what we're dealing with
there, buddy. But we gotta head on out. Jason McLean, everybody. You can find him online. His books on Amazon. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller. Then the lovely and talented Katie Page for the Encounters.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Jason, thank you so much, buddy.
No problem. I was waiting because I can see you're looking. You're like, did it work? Did it work? Yeah. Sometimes you push the button, it doesn't always respond immediately, does it?
Well, mine fires automatically, so I don't need to worry about that. But I just gotta try and figure out the whole timing system. Appreciate you, my man.
Oh, no problem, man.
Take care.
Anytime. Be good.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Jason McLean, everybody. We'll be right back. All right. Let's bring in the awesome Katie Page, shall we? There she is.
Hey,
How are you, beautiful?
I can't complain. Well, I can, but I won't. Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Oh, there's a bug right here. Oh my god. They're attracted to the lights at night, you know. Woo.
Well,
It looks harmless. It's a little one of those little green ones. Ew.
yeah, they're all
Yeah.
good. They're all good. You doing well?
Yes. Have my tea right here.
Very nice. Want to
Tea
stay a
at
little?
midnight.
Do you want to stay a little later tonight?
Oh, I don't know. Why is that?
Like 15 minutes?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. I just don't feel like doing my Dave 101 tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Cool.
good. You know why? Because I have a lot. I thought I
Well,
had to break it down into 2 shows, but we'll just roll through them.
right on. Big thank you tonight to Mel WD 40 times 2, Big Dog times 2, and Necessary Dialogue for the super chats. Appreciate the love and support. Don't forget you could join our YouTube membership as well. That would be awesome. And we're coming back in 3 seconds. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is Jetatura. Jetatura is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. The story I'm about to tell is from about a year ago. I was doing recon on a part of the woods that I had discovered the week before. I am a pretty skeptical person about the paranormal, but I don't deny its possibility. So I was advancing in the woods. I reached a spot that was unusual. It was entirely pine wood forest, unlike the rest of the wood, which is leafy. I thought it was strange, but still kept going further in. As I was probably a mile or so into the unknown part I had found, I heard the voice of a little girl screaming for her father. I quickly turned back to see what was going on, but I saw nothing. I continued walking for about 1 minute, and then I heard it again, but this time closer. I turned around and there was still nothing. I continued walking, but a bit faster this time. About 2 minutes later, I heard it another time, but this time it was right behind me. I checked again, but there was nothing, and then I heard a man speaking next to me, and there was still nothing. I was freaking out at this point, and I grabbed my combat knife and started running as fast as I could in the opposite direction. Note that I'm a pretty large dude and I don't get scared that easily. But this was just some next level stuff, man. Anyways, I managed to get back to my bike and got the heck out of there for good. If anyone has any idea about what this was, please share it in the comments and let me know. And I know my story might not be particularly scary, but thank you for sharing it anyway if you do.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to Swamp Dweller's YouTube channel. Of course, it's called Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night, and they're all for free, which is really awesome. So make sure you check it on out. Time for Katie Page.
us, scare us. Time for neon SORs encounters.
Katie Page back on Spaced Out Radio with the Encounters. It is always good to have you here, the lovely and talented Katie Page. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. We have got a good one tonight. This encounter segment is brought to you by RyanWoodsUFODecks.com. I love this service because you can go find obscure cases. And as you know, we're going through the alphabet here in the United States. So tonight we're hitting the really mysterious. And you know, Dave, you're kind of in trouble. I'm going to have to sell the house and buy an RV because the more I'm learning about all these strange cases across the country, I'm packing my bags and I'm headed to Arkansas. Arkansas is crazy.
I have an offer for you. Is there room for me on the motorhome? Because we could take the show on the road.
Let's do it. Let's take the show on the road. Let's do it, because the more I'm learning, the crazier this gets. And, you know, I've always liked the state of Arkansas. It's kind of, you know, known for the great UFO conference in the Ozarks, which I love that conference. It's a smaller conference, but it's a great one. If you've never been out to the Ozarks for that UFO conference, I definitely highly recommend it. So tonight we're doing Arkansas and we're doing Saskatchewan.
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 Yeah.
Not Saskatchewan.
No, Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Like a soft A, not an ah, an ah.
Ah, ooh, ah. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah. Okay, so Arkansas. So Arkansas is kind of really known for, you know, the Fouke monster, the legend of Boggy Creek. But before we go to Fouke, we are going to start. Actually, I love these super old cases, like from the 1900s. This particular case is from Little Rock, and it's the 1900s, 1909 to 1910 during the airship wave. This is so interesting. So during the worldwide airship wave, Little Rock was one of the few U.S. cities to report sightings of cigar or torpedo-shaped craft. Some witnesses describe seeing small man-like figures disembarking from these craft, dressed in metallic suits and moving with a jerky mechanical gait, kind of like Tuba Guy. These reports predate the modern gray alien archetype and are among the earliest humanoid UFO occupant cases in the United States. Who knew? I did not know that. Okay, so now, of course, if you guys are interested in learning more about, you know, the Boggy Creek monster or the Fouke monster, Small Town Monsters and Small Town Monsters, Heather there and all that whole team, they put out great content. They did a really good show on YouTube called Boggy Creek Monster. So I watched this last night, and oh my goodness, of course, this is kind of the interesting thing to me about the Boggy Creek Monster. So this is in Southwest Arkansas. These sightings even go back to as early as the 1800s, 1851. There were articles in the Gazette, 1856. And in 1964 was known as the Jonesville Monster. But basically, this is a hairy, bipedal, kind of smelly, ape-like monster, Sasquatch type looking thing with long arms. But what's interesting about this particular one are these red eyes, the red saucers. And I find, you know, this particular case compelling because, you know, this is multiple witnesses that have seen this. They've actually shot at this thing. And watching that documentary from Small Town Monsters last night, this is ongoing. So this is, you know, decade after decade after decade of seeing this particular creature. So that's sort of, you know, the big thing Arkansas is known for. But as I was going to these more obscure cases, east of Fouke in a place called Crossit, Arkansas, this was June 26 in the 1970s. Young Mike Lofton encountered a large hair-covered creature with beak-like claws, which kind of reminded me, the pictures I saw kind of reminded me of the claw-like marks that were left at the Snippy case there in the San Luis Valley. Again, the red bulging eyes. And this encounter was so vivid that he fired his father's rifle at the retreating figure. Investigators found blood and hair at the scene, which was sent to the Little Rock, Arkansas for analysis. The case is noted for its physical evidence and the creature's bizarre, almost alien features. So that's kind of crazy. Then we're going to go right on the border near Fouke again in a place called Foreman or Texarkana, Arkansas. And this was another, both towns have histories of the Bigfoot sightings and UFO activity. And this was one of the questions I had last night in watching that documentary with the Fouke monster. Were there UFOs and orbs sighted with that particular mountain? But here, right close to it, there are many reports of UFO activity. Witnesses reported seeing large hairy creatures in the woods shortly after a bright light or silent disc-shaped craft hovering nearby. In Foreman, similar reports describe a Bigfoot seen in the aftermath of UFO sightings, with some witnesses claiming to see the creature illuminated by the craft's lights. So again, that's very similar to Rocky Mountain Ranch, where we have the craft and the Sasquatch kind of seen together. So that's pretty cool.
That is very, so far? I love. That's my favorite, is when you have like an overlap.
Yeah.
This happen. Oh, I like those.
I know. And then, of course, I love these, when I can tie in to get a broader view of what was going on with the animal mutilations. So this is out of Berryville, Arkansas. So this is a little northwest of the state. Berryville has been the site of repeated cattle mutilations. Several people investigating these mutilations died under mysterious circumstances. So the investigators are dying mysteriously. I found that really strange. Some witnesses reported seeing black barrel-shaped craft hovering over the pastures, and others described seeing shadowy, non-human figures near the mutilation sites. So two things I had not heard: black barrel-shaped craft hovering near the mutilation sites. That's fascinating to me. And this, of course, was in the height of the rash of mutilations in the late 70s, early 80s. So that's interesting. Again, right in that same area near Berryville, black helicopters, Bigfoot, and missing persons. Says Berryville is not only known for cattle mutilations and UFOs, but also reports of black unmarked helicopters, Bigfoot sightings, and the mysterious disappearance of people who investigated these phenomenon. One investigator reported a tingling sensation and the feeling of being watched. I know that feeling really well, while in a 100-foot anomalous area, accompanied by electronic beeping sounds and the sudden absence of any animal noises. So that cone of silence. Again, this is late 70s, right in that high strangeness area. So this southwestern part of Arkansas is a really high strange location. I never really knew that before. So thank you for doing this segment, Dave.
I want to ask you something about that. And I've heard this before. Okay, but do the black helicopters really exist? Or is this just somebody seeing a helicopter that's maybe painted dark in color? And it just happens to be, say, going from some rich dude going to a golf game out in, in
Arkansas in the swamps.
Well, there's still golf courses out there. Hold on. Hold on a second here. How many golf courses are
first
in
of all,
Kansas?
I'm sure a lot. I mean, there's golf courses everywhere.
Oh, no, I'm Googling this now.
Are you Googling it? Okay.
98 golf courses.
I think people use a broad generalization for blacked out helicopters. I think what they really mean to say is unmarked or suspicious helicopters. Even just recently, when we went out to do a drone flight, and it's a whole story, I'll have to tell you some other time, turned out to be a very unfortunate turn of events. But as we're pulling up to this ranch property very near the Rocky Mountain Ranch, there was an unmarked, like, an old Bell helicopter. Now, it could just be, people out there patrolling or rangers or who knows what, but certainly during the rash of cattle mutilations back where Linda Haugatter started out there in Colorado, in the Elbert County area, they were a lot of blacked out or mysterious unmarked helicopters around the mutilation sites, which really begs the question, was the military and black access projects doing some of these mutilations? From what I've researched for the last 15 plus years, I think that it's a small sliver that we're actually doing that, because we don't have footprints, we don't have needles, we don't have a lot of evidence of that through decades and decades of these going on. I'm not saying none of them were carried out by these people in helicopters, but that, and I'll send it to you, Dave, that PDF I have of the choppers and the choppers, there are some weird accounts of even ET type of entities seen in these choppers, in these helicopters. Really strange stuff. So
I believe you, Katie Page.
It's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. I'm telling you what. Okay, so I had to include this case just because in the name of the town. And of course, I kind of want to live in this town. It's called Flippin. So Flippin, Arkansas. Isn't that fun? I live in Flippin. Okay, so this was December 29th, 1973. Steve Flippin and John Hamo. So I'm thinking, Steve Flippin, did he name the town? I don't know. I need to research this a little bit. But anyway, reported seeing an intense white light described as a sphere with a translucent fringes and a bright central region hovering over a desolated area. The object moved silently and caused no direct interference with the car. But at the same time this was happening, multiple residents in the area reported severe TV interference, wavy lines, white screens, and static. That's something we hear a lot, like in the late 60s and early 70s, these electromagnetic interferences, and like you see in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the car's going crazy, or, the static on the television, things like that. That being said, on the trifecta tonight, I had Trey Hudson, and they still have anomalies with vehicles out there in the meadows. So we're still getting some of these effects on vehicles. Have you ever experienced that, Dave?
No. I wish I had. I don't get all the lucky stuff that happens in the U.S. I live in Hicktown here.
What happens in Hicktown too, but maybe don't want it to happen out there because you'd be stuck in the middle of nowhere. So it's probably a good thing. I haven't experienced that. Also in 1973, so this is the same kind of phenomena in Flippin in 1973. This was a classic close encounter of the second kind. The case involved a glowing sphere, TV interference, magnetic field anomalies, magnetic reading nearby fences. So they're having all sorts of just electromagnetic interference there in Flippin, which is in what part of the state is Flippin? It is east of Berryville. Okay. I like looking at maps and getting the visual of where all this is happening. So now we're going to go to a place called Alma or Fort Smith. And this is in northwest Arkansas. A series of encounters in January 1978 involved law enforcement, journalists, and civilians. A Fort Smith police officer saw strange lights in the sky. Reporters described a metallic craft, half the size of a Volkswagen, so that's pretty small, emitting beeping noises. Multiple cars experienced electromagnetic effects, stalled engines, dead radios, and electrical malfunctions, all of which resolved when the craft departed. A mother and her children in Alma saw a dazzling array of multicolored lights hovering over the trees. So that was a mass sighting there in Alma. Also, around that same time, Mr. Morris reported seeing a circular UFO hovering over the roadway at about 30 miles an hour. This gets crazy. The object was translucent, emitted an orange-red glow, and stood about 3 feet tall. So there was a being, I guess, on the road, and this car collides with one of the humanoid figures. Morris accelerated away. This encounter is notable for the physical interaction with a non-human entity. What? So I've never heard of that before. That's really interesting. Okay, now I didn't know about this either. In Arkansas, I guess they have in Hardy and Cherokee Village, which is northeast Arkansas, they have crystal mines and underground anomalies. So these reports, there's a couple of these that talk about Known for its crystal mineral mines and reports of underground tunnels, witnesses have reported seeing strange lights emerging from the ground, as well as humanoid figures described as pale, thin, and with large black eyes near mine entrances. Some researchers speculate that these intruders or gray-type entities are using the mines as access points. Also, near Eureka Springs, they call it the window area for high strangeness, including UFOs, cryptids, poltergeist activity. This is near the UFO place there in the Ozarks. Multiple witnesses have reported seeing shadow people, small gray skinned beings in the vicinity, and rumored underground tunnels beneath the town. When I was there, I guess it's been 2 years ago now for the Ozark UFO Festival. In the town of Eureka Springs, you can do a ghost hunt, at night, which I did. And it's interesting to learn that people are rumored that there's underground tunnels and caverns under there. Now that I'm thinking about it, where the group met was kind of down.
Would you do the tunnel thing?
Yeah, I would do it. I think. I mean, I'm a little claustrophobic, so just like Cave of the Winds here where I'm at, like they have these special dark tours where it's like candle only and it gets really narrow and it goes. I wouldn't do that. Like I need to be able to see the exit. How about you?
I don't know if I would do the tunnel thing. Not that I'm claustrophobic. I'm just not sure what else is in there hiding.
Well, right. All sorts of critters and bats and things. And I don't know. And then, you hear of like different gases and things that can be harmful for you. So you'd want to, I don't know. You got to be careful when you're doing tunneling and caving and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that. Like when you see these, like these tunnel people who go investigating like the tunnels where they get the crevices get really small. I'm not, no.
Right.
No.
I'm with you on that. No.
Not doing that.
We don't need to do that.
Be the guy who gets stuck and ruins it for everybody.
That would not be good. Heave.
Right? Right? The last thing I need somebody to do is lather me up with margarine just so I can get out of a cave.
It reminds me of the old cartoons.
Right? I can't believe it's not butter all over my body. Just you bring a spray can of that just in case.
It might attract Sasquatch though. Like, butter.
That's all I need is being stuck in a cave with I can't believe it's not butter all over my body, and then Sasquatch comes up and says, "Hey, Davey, let me have a little taste." Starts licking my armpit or something like that. That would be horrible, Katie. The things you put into my brain, it's terrible.
It's funny, is what it is. Okay. Okay.
So, we got 1 minute to go.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What? Really? Okay.
Well, you're coming back for the second little bit here.
Okay, let me just get this out then. The Gordon Light. So this is kind of a mysterious train, more paranormal. It's in where is this? Grundon, Arkansas, and this was in the 1930s. Kind of a ghost train. And reports a silent hovering craft and electromagnetic disturbances along with this ghost train. So I have found these ghost trains in almost every state so far we looked at, including in Canada here. And
I know the one you're talking about.
The ghost train. You have one too, right?
In Saskatchewan.
See, I'm going to get it right. All right. Is there any more for Arkansas? Couple. 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay. The Ozark intruders. So this is basically kind of the MacLean. People in the Ozarks report having screen memories of especially white albino animals, especially owls. But I think it's really interesting that this has become a part of the Ozark folklore that these happen so frequently of these albino type white animal screen memories in abduction and missing time cases. So
Katie Page is going to return for another few minutes on the other end of this break. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
From the Rocky Mountains, here comes Katie Page.
I'm so glad that's so upbeat at this time of night or morning, depending on where you are. Whatever time of day it is for you, it gets you going.
Let's see here. Rocky Mountains, here comes Katie Page. On Spaced Out Radio. You would think that I would remember the lyrics because I wrote them.
Did you really? You didn't have AI write these?
No, I wrote them.
Really? That's so great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I think it's the only song I have with my name in. No, I take that back. Katie. There's an old famous song from way back called Katie. Katie. No, I won't sing it. My uncle used to sing it.
Are you guys getting snow yet?
No, it's been actually very beautiful the last few days. Not a cloud in the sky. Got to sit outside this morning and have coffee. It was perfect. Just like perfect weather.
Did you see Comet Lemon?
I didn't. It was too low on the horizon. I even got up at 3 a.m. and it was beautiful. Orion was just right outside the back windows, but no, I didn't get to see it. Did you get to see it?
I saw it yesterday.
Was it awesome? What did it look like?
Just like a hazy blob in the sky with a long tail. I saw it better with my binoculars. So,
well, I have to wait another 1,200 years or something to see it again.
1,300, yeah.
1,300. I'll catch it next
around
time.
for a few days.
Just think of that. I will have how many lives, if we're reincarnated every, 70 to 90 years or so. Who knows what I'll be then? Looking up.
You're going to be a beautiful butterfly.
With the song.
We got 2.5 minutes.
All right. So it's interesting. Canada has some. I literally am going. How do you pronounce
Saskatchewan?
Saskatchewan and Nipawin. A lot of these town names in Canada are Native American, probably.
Some of them.
Like that sounds Nipawin. Nipawin sounds that way.
Give me another one.
Well, Forchet. That's
Spell it.
Forchet. Forchet. See, that's French.
Now, to embarrass you, wait till you get to Dildo, Newfoundland.
What is it with you guys? Oh my
True
god.
place, Dildo, Newfoundland.
Oh no. No.
If you don't bring up a story about Dildo, Newfoundland,
I will find one. I will find one now. I'll just go beep.
It's a town that's buzzing every day. There are 803 people who live in Dildo. Seen a population decrease of 14.8% since 2016.
Well,
so
I
apparently
wonder
the
why.
batteries are running dry there.
Batteries are dry. Oh my gosh.
What am
It's
I
late.
supposed to say? It's a true place.
That's funny. Who comes up with these names anyway?
I don't know. Well, but don't forget that town was named way before.
Really? You think so? What did it mean before that?
No, it was named way before the whole dildo / vibrator thing.
Okay.
Like
It was like somebody's name or something.
Now I gotta find out here. How
Somebody's
old
name.
is Dildo, Newfoundland. Let's see. It's been inhabited for 2,000 years at minimum.
Whoa.
And people have been going there since 1613 to Dildo.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go, Katie.
Okay.
Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in as we bring in Katie Page once again for the encounters. Why is Katie staying late? I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't want to do a Dave 101 tonight. I didn't. You know, I really didn't. So I said, Katie, do you mind sticking around and bailing old Davey out again? And she's like, again? And I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, Katie, like, I'll buy you a Coke when we're in Vegas next. And she's like, Dave, I don't drink Coke. I'm only on the hard stuff. And I'm like, whatever. So it cost me a drink in Vegas. Before we bring Katie back in, reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon and the Space Travelers Club. Here's Katie. This is the encounters. Next story. You're heading to Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. See? I'm teachable.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. So sorry if I butcher some of these crazy names. Anyway, have you heard of the Musgrave?
Travel to Moose Jaw?
What?
Would you travel to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's look at, before we go there, town names in Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Let's see if... would you go to Lloydminster?
You know what? At my age, you have that bucket list. You're like, you kind of game just to check out any old place, I guess. No.
What about Assiniboia?
Assiniboia?
Yeah.
It's like, is there Cinnabons in Assiniboia?
No. Starts with ASS.
Assiniboia.
Right?
Oh, okay. You're getting me all good. Okay.
Would you swim the Carrot River?
No. I don't think I'd swim any river.
How about Esterhazy?
Esterhazy. That sounds cool.
Yeah. A lot of good hockey players come from Saskatchewan.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Love hockey.
No, it's true. And you know what? I will say this about Saskatchewan people because they are a different breed of human.
Oh.
They really are a different breed of human. They are tough. They are strong. They are competitive. They will stick up for anybody if they believe in you, right? And they are the nicest people in Canada.
Good combination. I love that.
People are the nicest. I mean, they're a little screwed up. Their football team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, playing in the Canadian Football League. These people will, in like minus 25 below, will go no t-shirt and a watermelon on top of their head, carved out watermelon, and wear it like a football helmet.
Sounds like Vail, Colorado. People jump in the ice, snowy waters and things like that with watermelons on their heads too. So, Colorado, Saskatchewan, same thing. No, that's a good combination. A little crazy, strong, nice. What more can you want?
Well, you know what? Probably a mountain or two. Saskatchewan's the only place that people know in Canada where when your dog runs away, you don't have to chase it for at least 15 miles because you can still see the dog.
Oh, so it's very open out there.
Very open and flat.
Okay, well, that makes some of these cases even more mysterious. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever heard of this John Musgrave case from 1933?
Fill me in.
Nipawin? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Nipawin. Okay, this is the summer of 1933. Again, another one of these early cases that just blows my mind. It says the witnesses were John Musgrave and 2 companions. So I love these multiple case sightings as well. It says this is one of the earliest and most unusual cases in Canadian UFO history. The Nipawin incident involved 3 local residents who, after a series of sightings of orange bright lights in the sky and at ground level, set out to investigate. They discovered a landed disc-shaped craft in a marshy area with a ladder extending from a central hatch. Several small humanoid figures dressed in, there's the silver suits again. When are we going to get to the silver suits? Wouldn't that be so much easier if we could all just agree on an outfit? Everybody just wear this on Monday. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't mind the silver suit thing. And okay, they're wearing silver suits and ski cap-like helmets. They were observed ascending and descending the ladder, apparently engaging in repair work. It said the UFO was domed on top and slightly rounded at the bottom, with a central doorway or hatch from which about a dozen figures could be seen ascending and descending the ladder. The area was described as deathly silent. So that's crazy. In 1933, they had the cone of silence being reported. When the witnesses returned a few nights later, the craft was gone. How long was it there? Like 2 days? But ground traces and footprints remained. So there was trace evidence from this case in 1933 in Nipawin.
The silver suits again.
Silver suits and helmets. I love these older cases. It's so sci-fi.
Do you think that's because that at the time, see, I always look at this whole ET phenomena thing, okay, that if you go back in time when there was no airplanes, people claimed, Katie, that these craft that they were seeing were like giant sail ships going through the sky.
Airships.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it turned into hot air balloons, like different styles of hot air balloons. And then it became eventually the flying saucer and so on and so forth. So there has been, at least ET has improved their technology along with human technology, at least the shapes of their craft. But do you think, though, that people who make these claims about the saucers and about the silver, body outfits, that maybe that this is just something that trends with people who have that experience at that time because that's what they know?
Well, I would say that as human nature, that we have to, given the time that these are occurring, we have to compare it to something. And if you think about the 1930s, I would imagine that comic books and sci-fi, that's how they probably depicted some of these things. So how much of that really goes into the folklore of UFOs and encounters and sightings? I mean, certainly, there's some really good books that go through the different decades like this. And Crazy Katie, thought I could go through all these big old books and highlight and try to make columns. And I was like doing, okay, here's the silver suits and here's the black suits and here's this emblem patch and that. I spent a week on that and I finally gave up because there's just so many variations of this, but it has to be part of what you're saying. It only makes sense. Yeah. But that is a really interesting case from 1933. Now, this next one in Forchet, am I saying that right? Forchet. Oh, that's right. It's right. Forchet. Forchet. Now, this is interesting because this is a Christmas concert encounter from the 1940s. Have you heard of this one?
No.
Again, these come sponsored by UFOdex.com. I just typed in what are some obscure cases, this is they shoot out all these great cases and they tell you where they get the information from. So these come from APRO reports and NICAP reports and old MUFON reports and all sorts of books and things like that. It's really cool. Anyway, so in Forchet, Saskatchewan, December 1940s, this was multiple witnesses of school teachers, school children, and townspeople. So this was during a Christmas concert at a rural school. A handsome stranger resembling Jesus Christ attended, then vanished. Immediately after, a huge, brilliant Christmas star-type UFO appeared in a nearby pasture. The event was so striking that it became part of the local legend of the area. On Christmas, they had like their own moment.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? If only it was Christmas time, but it's not. It's Halloween time. So, hey, Nightmare Before Christmas.
I have one for you from Saskatchewan first. I don't know if you have this one or not.
Okay, go ahead.
The St. Louis Light.
Oh, I think I did read that one.
Yeah.
Is that is that the train or is that a different one?
The train.
The train. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
The
So the legend of that one is that it's the ghost of a train conductor, possibly decapitated in the 1920s while inspecting the tracks or the lantern of the headless ghost.
No.
Yeah.
How
And apparently, even though the tracks are no longer there anymore in Little St. Louis with a population of about 400 people, okay, you can actually still go to that area where the tracks are. And on certain nights, you will see him carrying the lantern. And you can run towards the lantern to try and get closer, but you never do.
Is it like the Headless Horseman? Is it your version of the headless train engineer?
Some people see the train still rolling. Some people will see the full lights of the train. Others will just see the lantern of the gentleman who got decapitated.
Oh, freaky.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to go out and see it?
I want to go there. Let's take our motorhome there.
All right. We're taking it on the road. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. We have ghost trains out here in Colorado as well. I feel like almost every state must have a ghost train story, which is really fascinating.
Katie, it's time for me to say goodnight to you.
Oh, all right. We'll save the rest for next time.
Well, you know what? I do have time. If you want to use them, I do have time. But I said I would only keep you about 15 minutes.
No, we're okay. We'll save the other ones are like, that's good. We'll just leave it right there.
Where can people find you, Katie Page?
Yeah, you can find me. You could go to Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Page on YouTube to see some of my videos, or you could go to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org or KatiePaige.net.
Love you, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next week. Have a good night.
It's time for the weird news of the week.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises! I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
We're going to start off in jolly old England here, where apparently it is illegal to dump your coffee down a street drain. A woman from London was fined £150 for doing this exact same thing and has had the penalty revoked after a council review. 3 law enforcement officers stopped Bursu Yesiliurt near the Richmond station on October 10th and handed her a fixed penalty notice on her way to work. Richmond Council initially defended the fine, saying that it has been issued in line with its policies, but they canceled it after an email was sent to the young lady at about 3 p.m. The council said, I can advise you that on review, the fixed penalties notice has been canceled. Yesiliurt, who lives in Kew, says she believes she had been acting responsibly when she emptied a small amount of coffee from her reusable cup before boarding her bus. I actually noticed my bus was approaching, so I just poured the leftovers a bit. It wasn't much, just a tiny little bit. As soon as I turned around, 3 men, enforcement officers, were chasing me, and they stopped me immediately. I thought it was about the bus. I had no clue pouring liquid into a drain was illegal. It was quite a shock. The officers told her that she was in breach of Section 33 of the Environmental Protection Act 1990, which makes it an offense to dispose of waste in a way that could pollute land or water. Richmond Council had initially said that its officers acted professionally and objectively, but they eventually said, yeah, this is stupid. This is stupid. Let's just move on here. Yeah. So the young lady said that she asked the officers whether there were any signs warning the public about this rule, but was given an answer, no. I asked if there were any signs and anything saying you couldn't pour your coffee away. They didn't answer me. She said she described the encounter quite intimidating and said she felt shaky afterwards. They told me I did something criminal. Oh my goodness. London just seems to be going to the all hell in a handbasket. I hope it's not true. Yeah. So a spokesperson for Richmond Council had said earlier that the footage from the officer's body cam had been reviewed and the authority did not agree that the officer behaved aggressively. Footage confirms the officers acted professionally and were sensitive to the circumstance. Nobody likes receiving a fine, and we always aim to apply our policies fairly with understanding. We are committed to protecting Richmond's waterways and keeping our borough's streets clean and safe. Enforcement action is only taken when necessary, and residents who feel a fine has been issued incorrectly can request a review within 14 days. Well, apparently she did that. All right, let's move on here. This one's going to get a little political, okay, but it's funny. It really is. 3 police officers in, I believe that's Fate Hope, Alabama, took down an absolute criminal here. I don't know how this person could be walking the streets. They took down and arrested a 61-year-old woman at the local No Kings protest. Why? Well, I'm just going to say it. It's because she was wearing a giant penis costume. In a statement posted on Facebook, Fair Hope police said they responded to a complaint about the penis costume, stating that they observed an individual in a phallic state near the Baldwin Square shopping center. Try and hold a straight face here. They approached Gina Renee Gamble and told her to take the costume off because it was deemed obscene in a public setting. When she refused, she was tackled to the ground and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Yeah, I guess they had to erect her up to her feet in order to get her into a squad car. A video of the arrest posted on Blue Sky captures bystanders yelling at police that she posed no threat. Yes, in Divisible Baldwin County, which was involved in organizing the local No Kings protest, condemned Gamble's arrest. Ms. Gamble was peacefully expressing her point of view on Saturday. Her violent arrest for expressing herself in the way the police found rude is indefensible, morally and legally, they said in a statement. Public officials must take seriously their duty to uphold the First Amendment. Yep, their complete failure to do so in this situation runs against the free expression values that created the city of Fairhope and against the liberty guarantees enshrined in Alabama law and the United States Constitution. Yes, so apparently you shouldn't be arrested for dressing up as MC Hammer. You see the pun there, right? Okay. Oh, man. Last year, a group of researchers won the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physiology for discovering that many mammals are capable of breathing through their anus. But as with many Nobel Awards, there is a serious side to the seemingly silly topic. This same group has now conducted a new study of feasibility of adapting this method to treat people who have blocked airways or clogged lungs, with promising results that bring rectal oxygen delivery. They call it rod therapy. Yeah. One step closer to medical reality. Where do I find this stuff? As previously reported, this is perhaps one of the most unusual research developments because nobody really expects to breathe out of their anus to come out since the COVID-19 pandemic and its associated shortages of ventilators and artificial lungs to assist patients breathing and prevention respiratory failure. The Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center team took their inspiration from a humble loach, a freshwater bottom-dwelling fish found through Eurasia and northern Africa. Yeah, they put something in its buttocks and seen if it could breathe. It could. So they figured, why not humans? Let's get this done. Would such a novel breathing method work in mammals? The team thought it might be possible and undertook experiments on mice and micro pigs to test the hypothesis if they could breathe out of their bum. Well, apparently it worked. A rat is able to breathe that way. I don't know how else to put it, but that way. So, an interesting take right there. I don't know if I would want to do it, but it just seems a little odd. I'm not going to lie. It seems odd. All right. Let's go to the final story tonight. Do we have time? Do we have time? Oh, yeah, we'll have time for this one. Quickly. A wild and very polite and possibly lonely black bear decided to break into a Northern California zoo at Sequoia Park Zoo in Eureka, where all of a sudden it decided to go visit the bears that were inside the zoo. Yeah, I guess he was lonely. He was leaning on a gate and a pier. He had that look of fate on his cheek. So this is what happens when you get caught. Well, he eventually scattered back into the wild. Nobody hurt. The bear wasn't charged for break and enter, and it was a good time for all. As we say goodnight to all of you, and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. Tickets, that is. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. So, Vanessa, no protesting in a penis costume. Just saying. Because if I could pick anybody in our chat room who would do it, my dear, it would be you. I mean that with all due respect. What's the date here? 21, 22. All right. You know when you have fat fingers and you're not hitting the key, you're hitting like in between the keys, so it's adding like letters. Hate when that happens. There we go. All right, how we doing? Good job, people. Good job, people. Good job. There we go. Okay, what the hell is going on here? All right. Just getting caught up in the chat room. Penis woman got arrested. Ah, yes. It's one thing about you, America. You take everything to the fullest extent, and we appreciate the entertainment. Now, the way you guys, let's just be honest here for a second, okay? Let's be honest here. The way you guys are acting towards each other right now, this better transform into bringing Black Friday back. Okay? For years now, you guys, since the vid, you guys have been failing at Black Friday. Failing. An absolute failing grade. You have an opportunity here because you absolutely hate each other. Okay? You have an opportunity on Thanksgiving night to travel to your local Walmart, your local Best Buy, your local Costco, or whoever, and you better have brass knuckles on. Okay? You better have tinfoil on your knuckles, and you better put those 80s spikes that like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden singers used to wear. Okay? That's what you need to do. Okay? You need to get ready for Black Friday. You need to be able to do this, people. It's been years since we've had a high quality Black Friday. Serious. I'm not even joking. Thanksgiving and Black Friday are the epitome of America. It's as common as eating turkey and watching baseball and football. Not basketball because it's not entertaining. Okay? It's fishing for bass with a cigarette dangling out of your mouth. It's going to Florida and tackling a gator because you can. Joe, you have to be more positive. See, this is the attitude we don't need right now. Okay? That's very inhumane, Joe. Very inhumane. It's never going to happen again, Dave. Everybody buys things online. Okay? You have to be more positive, Joe. Okay? Maybe you need a little bit more sugar in your life. Look at Jules. People aren't fighting luscious, Dave. Talk to the authorities who are fighting with the people. I understand that. Okay? But we can take that attitude positively into Black Friday. We can do it. I refuse to be disappointed for the 5th year in a row. Oh, human Carl, relax. I'm having fun here. Seriously. My God, you can't even have fun these days. Fuck off. Fuck off. Really? Come on. Unbelievable. You know what's funny is I hear other shows make comments like I just made comments and people laugh. Me, I get told to fuck off. Very nice. Very nice. I love the Yankees. Oh, man. I'm not shaving anything, man. Shaved my head once. I look terrible bald. Probably get told to fuck off for it. I'm sorry for having fun, people. Sorry for having fun. That just triggered me. Totally triggered me. Not yelling at you, Joe. Take the sarcasm. Holy cow. Apparently, I'm not allowed. Jay Trueseeker. Apparently, I'm not allowed to ask for violence on on Black Fridays anymore. I'm not allowed to. I have to pass everything through people to make sure I can say what I want to say on my own show, on my own creation. It's twice he's snipped at me in 2 nights. That would be brilliant. Put a $50 PlayStations on Black Friday. Take out a full page ad. That would be awesome. I'm not allowed to have fun, though. Second here. Send that on its way. Close those off. Tomorrow night on the show, Brian Bowden will be here. Crazy haunted stories. We'll round out the week with Jason or Grant Cameron. Jason Kenzie had to reschedule because, you know, we're in his mind, we're a podcast. So we're going to reschedule. And go from there. Over there. Anyways, I'm in a real pissy mood now. So, you know, because I'm not allowed to have fun on my own show. So I'm going to say a big thank you to Mel WD-40, Big Dog with a hat trick, and Necessary Dialogue. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.